Awesome, guys. So one of the things that we're going to be introducing every other week is I'm going to be calling on an agent to come up here and answer a few questions about what's going on in their world, what's going on in the market.
Is that why you were sitting up front?
Yeah, that's sitting up front.
It's a short walk.
And John has volunteered to be our first guinea pig here to see how this goes. So I'll leave a little bit of room at the end. So if anybody has any questions. I've known John for, I don't know, maybe 13 years now. John, how long have you been in the business?
About that long. Since I think you were with the office back when I started in 2013.
Sounds about right. When I saw Bill come in a little while ago, I realized that it was right around that time when we used to do the office meetings over at Metro that we all sort of started in the business together.
Yeah, I remember your face. Do you work with Brian Kane?
Don't hold that against me, though.
Okay. I was like, what am I doing?
So I think it's fair to say that, you know, the business in the last several years has been pretty challenging, and if it hasn't been, you know, congratulations to you. It probably means you kept your head down and been doing your daily lead generation, right? But what I wanted to talk to John about today, so that I kind of give you a little glimpse into John's world, is, you know, first and foremost is how do you keep yourself positive on a daily basis? Because one of the things I can tell you about John is he shows up here every day. And I can tell you, just because I'm around him a lot, that he's had some challenging transactions recently, yet he always keeps a positive attitude and he shows up ready to work. So that'd be my first question to you, John. You know, how do you keep it all together between years?
Well, I don't. That's the first. I'm glad it seems like I do.
And by the way, he's got two youngins at home. He's got two young children at home, and one of them is still, I'll say it, you know, nursing with the mother, and I've got 3 kids at home. So I can tell you that's a very challenging time. It's a very trying time.
Yeah.
So walk us through that, John.
So since I think part of the answer is just I've been doing this for a long time now, about 13 years. So I have the expectation already that things aren't going to always go your way. There's going to be deals that fall out. There's going to be difficult deals. There's going to be times where things just aren't going the way you want them to. So that's kind of something that's important to just try to wrap your head around when it comes to this business in general. Mm-hmm. It's not always easy to do that, but that's kind of, I think you just kind of have to set the expectation with yourself that this is that kind of business. It's not everything is just going to be perfect all the time. So
you guys hear that?
Yeah.
So might be simple.
Even if you're doing all the activities, all the things right, you're gonna run into some issues. So this year has been a little bit challenging. I think the first quarter has been much slower than I'm used to, but I also know that I have a decent pipeline right now, so I know that there's kind of light at the end of that tunnel, and you've got to keep filling that pipeline up so that you actually have business coming down the road. When things are tough, you can't just take your foot off the gas because it's just going to make things even harder.
And you don't want to rest on your laurels. You know, with that said, what is your main source of business for you after 13 years, John?
Right now, in the last couple of years, it's been repeat clients.
Okay.
So everyone that I'm working with right now are people that I helped purchase homes like 5 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. They're turning around and selling. So I know that's, you know, for newer agents, that's not an easy source of business, but it also took me a long time to start seeing that kind of business come.
How long would you say that took you? Like, at what point in your career did you start to like wake up to referrals and get those like magical texts where it's like, oh wow, hey John, like, you know, I was referred to you by X or you know, somebody you helped out in the past. How long do you think that took you to establish?
So I remember thinking my first few years, I'd be like, where is everybody? I just closed transactions with these people. They really liked me. No one's referring me out. Like, how do you start? Like, who are all these people getting all this repeat and referral business? And it just wasn't really happening. Right. And I think it was around it wasn't even at the 5-year mark for me. And some people will get repeat business a lot quicker than that. I think it was maybe like 7-ish years in, 8 years in, where I started really feeling repeat clients come around. And I think that was because that's kind of the average time people that are holding on to houses for, right? Mm-hmm. So I was staying in touch with these people. Mostly, for me, the easiest way to stay in touch is through social media. I just befriend everybody on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever, and stay in front of them that way. I try to stay in relationship with them. I'm not huge on, I don't call people and just say, hey, do you have any referrals for me?
How do you go about that? Because a lot of the times I notice that agents really struggle reaching out to their past clients or even just in lead generation in general because they kind of feel like they're, it's weird,
Yeah.
you haven't spoken to them in a while. So how do you go about asking for your past clients for referrals?
So the time where I actually ask most is when I'm actively working with them. We're in escrow, or we're looking for a home, or we're listing their home. That's when I find the most success for me in asking for referrals and receiving them. Other than that, I will, if I talk to a past client, I will ask every once in a while who they know. But for the most part, I try to make the process of, while I'm working with them, don't ask, just show them why they should refer you out. Take such good care of them that they want to refer you to their family, want to refer you to their friends. So that's kind of the angle I take. And then also just staying in front of them on social media. It's a lot easier to stay in front of people these days with that. So whether it's messaging or like something I always do is like if a client has like a kid that is in Little League, let's say, and they post a fundraiser, I'm going to contribute to that. Or if they just had a kid, I'm going to send a nice gift to their house. Like I try to stay in relationship with people that way, rather than just calling and asking for things. So just do right by them during the transaction, and find a way to stay in touch with them that's not putting pressure on them. That's what I do.
That's really cool. So it sounds like your white glove service is you rely more on that as sort of just producing referrals for you, and then that way if you do. I'm just curious, like, how do you frame it when you do directly ask for a referral, either during the transaction or after the transaction? Or is there like I don't want to say a script, is there a way you word it that you feel comfortable with and has worked for you?
It's pretty straightforward. It's like if I'm working with somebody and everything's going well, which typically is going decently, just say, hey, look, I know we're coming to the transaction's coming to an end here. I'm always looking to work with more people like you. I've really enjoyed working with you. Who do you know from work, family, friends that's looking to sell or purchase right now?
Very simple.
That's it. But I just don't do it all the time. I mean, it's important to do it, but they know. They know what you do for a living, and they know you want more business, so it's not a mystery. But you got to be, to earn those referrals, you have to stay connected with them somehow. You can't just not talk to them for 3 years and expect that your phone's going to ring.
Awesome. Then my last question is, on average, how many contacts would you say that you strive to make on a daily basis or a weekly basis? I know life is in session, you've got kids, you've got other things going on. What is your goal, just so that you feel like you've shown up in your business and you get the results that you're looking for?
You and I were actually talking about this a couple days ago. And you had said that you're trying to have like a minimum of 3 conversations even in a day. And I thought that was a really kind of profound point, because that's essentially what I'm trying to do is if I talk to 5 people in a day, I think that's a pretty successful day. I know a lot of people want to do a lot more than that. Some people aren't doing any, but I think what we generally tend to push is a higher bar than that, and it makes people not do anything. So if you're talking to 3 or 5 people a day about real estate, especially past clients,
and that's what it was based on, because John was
that
asking.
snowballs, and that adds up.
John was asking me like, hey, you were in production in past Louise, what do you do to stay in touch with your past clients? I go, I just try to make 3 contacts with past clients, every single day. And I mean, in a recruiting aspect, it's a lot higher because you have to have a lot of contacts, in order to successfully recruit. But
you just got to chip away at it. Most people are making 0. So if you're making 3 and you're doing that 5 times a week, you're talking to 15 people a week. You're talking to 60 people a month. You're having really good conversations. You're gonna trip over some deals.
And I think that's really critical what you said. When a lot of people look for instant gratification just because we're so used to being on social media and we just want that dopamine hit. But it's when you least expect it. If you do the work and you show up every day, that you start to get a referral here and there, and all of a sudden, it just gives you that confidence to show up the next day, even if you're not seeing the result, because you know that, hey, I can be pumping gas, or I can be in the middle of something, and I'll get that phone call or that text, and it's like, wow, it paid off then, So yeah.
You need some momentum.
It's one of the hardest things to create in real estate is momentum, and once you have it, you have to do everything you can to maintain it, because once that bus stops, it's hard to get it going again. So with that said, thank you, John. Does anybody have any questions for John? Because we have stats to go over, but does anybody have any specific questions or anything they'd like to pick his brain about while he's up here?
Take away.
Yeah?
You don't have to.
You don't have to. Don't feel guilty. But no? Awesome, man. Thank you so much, guys.